3 weeks behind, she added 6 engineers to catch up. It put her 5 weeks behind. At the desk today, Professor Solberg is here to help us take that apart, and there was a move she never reached for. One that looks like surrender, and is actually the professional answer. It saves the date without burning a single person. Park that.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. Because the instinct that just cost her 2 weeks? It's the exact instinct that got her promoted.
Right, she wasn't careless, she was experienced. Behind schedule, the sponsor breathing down her neck, 6 good engineers sitting free. Every reflex says grab them and go. That reflex is the whole reason this task earns an episode.
We've spent 3 episodes on the plan, the scope, the value. None of it moves without people and equipment. That's process task 4, plan and manage resources. And resources means both halves, the people and the physical things, machines, materials, the room they work in.
Here's what makes it deceptively small. The whole task is 2 lines in the exam outline. Define and plan resources based on requirements. Then manage and optimize resource needs and availability. That's the entire task. 4 verbs: define, plan, manage, optimize. And almost every resource question you'll ever see is really asking which of those 4 you're standing in.
And physical is the half everyone forgets. It's never only people.
Every time. The estimate is all headcount, and then the test environment isn't ready, the licenses have lapsed, the lab is double booked, equipment and materials sink as many projects as people do.
And read what those 2 lines don't say. They don't say hire more people, they don't say work the weekend. That word optimize is carrying the weight. It's the whole discipline of hitting the date without wrecking the people who hit it.
So the reflex, behind schedule, throw bodies at it, push the team harder, that's the wrong answer?
9 times out of 10, yes. I can tell you cleanly what the outline rewards: protect the resource, protect the pace, still deliver. Where it crosses into labor law and someone's health, that's past what a project outline decides, and I wouldn't pretend otherwise.
The exam wants both. Protect the team and still deliver. Not one at the cost of the other.
And this is the exam's favorite trap on this whole task, the one we call the experience trap. In the real world, adding people when you're behind looks like leadership. It's often what got you promoted. On the exam, that same reflex is the wrong answer 9 times out of 10, and PMI writes the questions knowing you'll reach for it.
So my 10 years of running teams is actively working against me on these questions.
On this task, yes, Liam. Your instinct says do something visible. The exam wants you to do something correct. They aren't the same move. One thing before we dig in. Every practice question and flashcard for this task is free at certs.professorerica.com. Drill the resource questions there tonight.
Before the exam mindset, look at what resourcing actually is at full scale. This is Oak Ridge, 1944. Roughly 10,000 young women hired and trained to run these panels, matched to the work, not to their resumes. The physicists on site kept overthinking the dials. The women, told only what a good reading looked like, ran them better.
The question I keep coming back to on this task is the one that trips everybody. When your project is behind, what's the move that isn't just adding people?
Because when Solberg and I pulled her project apart, the real damage wasn't the 6 engineers. It was what she skipped 3 weeks earlier. Let me pause for just a second because this genuinely helps. If you are getting value here, hit that like button, then subscribe and ring the bell. It costs you nothing, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps these videos coming.
Here's what she skipped. She never wrote down what the work actually needed.
So when the project slipped, she did the natural thing. She looked at who was free. 6 engineers happened to be free, she took them. She staffed the availability, not the work.
Okay, walk me through the right version, slowly. Where does it actually start?
It starts with the requirements. That's the first enabler, word for word. Define and plan resources based on requirements. You read the scope and the schedule, and the work hands you the type and the quantity. 3 backend developers for 6 weeks. 1 database specialist, part-time. This much test hardware. You size the resource to the work, then go find who fits.
Size it to the work first. That's the whole rule. Size to the work, then staff. Get that order wrong and everything downstream is a guess.
3 developers, 6 weeks. That's 18 developer weeks of work. So if one of them gets pulled onto a fire, you aren't down a third of a little, you're down 6 weeks of work with nowhere to go. 6 weeks.
And if the work needs a skill nobody on the team has, that isn't a staffing problem, that's a 2.
Hiring problem. You post the job.
No. Posting a job to save a late project is the slowest liver on the board. You onboard them right as the crisis ends. And don't take that on my word. Look at the outline itself.
This is PMI's own language, 2 lines. Read what they actually say.
Define and plan resources based on requirements. Then manage and optimize resource needs and availability. Requirements first, both times. And the tool that holds it's the resource breakdown. Everything the project consumes, people by skill on one side, the physical side on the other, equipment, materials, the room. So nothing is estimated twice, and nothing is forgotten.
And behind all of it, a resource calendar.
Resource calendar. Say that one in a plain sentence, Lewis, for anyone who has never built one.
When each person and each machine can actually work. Your best developer is worth nothing to you the 3 weeks she's booked on another project.
So the define step has a real output, a list, not a vibe.
A real list, 3 senior backend developers, 1 database specialist part-time, 2 testers for the final month, 1 build server, 40 licenses. That's a resource requirement. So when the sponsor asks for more people, you don't argue, you show the list and ask which requirement they want to change. The document does the arguing for you.
Then you assign it, and here's where good teams quietly fail. Everybody busy, nobody owns the outcome. On my allotment, 1 bed, 1 waterer. The summer 3 of us shared the tomatoes. We lost the tomatoes.
Says the man whose carrots are, and I quote, a humiliation.
Fair. The carrots are a separate investigation, but the rule holds. 1 task, 1 accountable.
It has a name, RACI. For every task, 1 person responsible, doing the work. Exactly 1 accountable, the single owner who answers for it. Others are consulted or just informed. The whole trick is the second letter. 1 accountable per row. 2 owners means no owner.
And you can break this in 2 opposite directions, right?
There's the coordinator who runs hybrid programs and is genuinely good, but she assigns every task to herself, reviews every deliverable before it moves, makes every call because she knows the answer. She becomes the one resource the whole project waits on.
The opposite failure is the lead who runs everything self-organizing. Nobody is assigned anything, the team pulls its own work. Beautiful. Until a task needs a decision from another department and nobody has the standing to get it. 3 weeks, and nothing has moved.
Over-owning and under-owning break the same enabler. 1 person can't be the plan, and the team will sort it isn't a plan either. 1 task, 1 owner, and the owner isn't always you.
And when you get requirements, breakdown, and owners right, you can move an army. This is Promontory, 1869. 2 railroad crews, thousands of workers each, materials staged mile by mile, meeting in the middle on schedule.
1 database specialist, part-time, for 2 weeks. That was her real gap, not 6 engineers. 1. Solberg, you were midpoint when the transition cut you off. The optimize half. Say what most managers get wrong about it.
The word optimize makes people hear efficiency, squeeze more out of everyone. It means almost the opposite. Notice when a resource is booked past what it can give and fix it before it breaks. That's the entire second enabler.
And over-allocation is invisible. Your best database person is on 3 projects at once. On paper, she's 100% staffed. In reality, she's at 200 and nobody sees it until she misses 2 deadlines in 1 week, or quits. Watch what that looks like on a resource chart.
68 hours in week 3, and the plan showed green the whole time.
Wait, so the question isn't how do we go faster? The question is who's quietly drowning. That's a completely different thing to look for.
Right, and now that the work is overloaded, having, to borrow Lewis's phrase, sized it to the work, you have to refit the work to what people can actually give. The first tool is resource leveling. You respect the limit and reschedule the overloaded activities so nobody is booked past what they have. And here's the part that surprises everyone. Leveling can push your end date out. It's resource-limited scheduling. You're telling the calendar that the people are the hard constraint, not the deadline.
The second tool keeps the date. Resource smoothing. You only move work around inside the slack it already has, the float, so the critical path doesn't change and the finish holds. And I'll be honest about the limit. Smoothing can't fix a real overload, only an uneven one. When demand genuinely exceeds capacity, you're back to leveling.
So one moves the date, one holds it. Smoothing always holds it. Holds it as long as the overload fits inside the float. Past that, it's out of moves.
Give me that on a calendar. 2 tasks. Same tester. Both due Friday.
Smoothing. One task has 3 days of float, so you slide it to start Wednesday. Same tester, no clash, Friday still holds. Leveling, neither task has float. Both genuinely need her all week, so one finishes Monday and you tell the sponsor the date moved, because the tester is one person, not 2. Here's the shape of it. Picture one oven the night before a big dinner. The oven is your one specialist. The dishes are the tasks. The dinner hour is your deadline. Smoothing is like topping up a fountain pen. You feed the work in steadily so the oven is never jammed and never idle.
Or one bathroom, 4 people, one morning, one train to catch.
Exactly the same shape. One resource, many demands, a fixed clock. Smoothing wins when the demands just need spacing. When they genuinely collide, the turkey and the pie both at 4, spacing runs out and you either move the clock or someone cooks all night.
One catch though, unlike an oven, the resource is a person. Run them all night to save the clock, and you've lost them next week. That's the whole reason smoothing beats overtime.
That's the safe read. I mean, safe as long as your Slack numbers are honest. Smoothing fits the work into the hours you already have. Leveling admits you need more hours. The numbers live on the schedule, never inside the story.
That's the people side. What about the physical resources, the gear, the environments?
Same discipline, a different name. Managing physical resources means confirming the equipment and materials you planned are there when the work reaches them, and reallocating fast when a machine or a license falls through. A blocked test rig stalls a team just as hard as a missing person does.
And this is what a leveled line looks like when it works, an assembly line. The line sets the pace, and the work and the parts arrive to meet it. Nobody sprinting, nobody idle. So on the exam, when a scenario says a resource is over-allocated, how many extra hours do I add?
That's the wrong unit. You don't add hours. You level or you smooth, and the cost is measured in calendar days, not overtime. The moment your answer is add hours, you've picked the trap.
And there's a number for what over-allocation costs you in people, not days. It dwarfs the schedule slip. Hold that one. We put it on the table before the end.
That's the call of the whole scene, Solberg. Thank you.
Seconded. Leveling versus smoothing is the distinction people miss most.
Glad to. Get that one right and half the resource questions fall over.
You said run them all night and they're gone. That word, gone, is the whole next problem. Because the bill for burning your team doesn't come due on this project.
(1975), Fred Brooks had just managed the biggest software project on Earth, the operating system for IBM's new mainframes. It ran late, so they added programmers. It ran later. He watched it happen, and then he wrote one sentence that has outlived the machine.
Adding manpower to a late project makes it later. 50 years old, still on your exam.
And it stings because the honest fixes, level the work, replan, feel like
losing. If leveling pushes the date out, how is that the good answer?
because adding people to a project that's already behind is worse. 3 reasons, and the exam is built on all 3. 1. Ramp up. A new person isn't free capacity. For weeks they're net negative. They eat the time of the people who already know the system, asking the questions and making the mistakes everyone made a year ago.
2. Some work won't split. 9 women can't make a baby in 1 month. If step 2 depends on step 1, more bodies don't help, they wait.
And 3, communication, 5 people is 10 channels. Add 5 more, that isn't 20, that's 45. You didn't double the talking, you quadrupled it. Every new person is a conversation everybody else now has to have.
Put those together and the shape is brutal. Every person you add is net negative for a while, adds paths for everyone else, and can't touch the work that won't divide. On an early project with runway, you absorb that cost. On a late one, there's no runway to pay it back, so the help arrives as a bill.
And notice the exam almost never says the project is early. The scenario is always behind. That's the tell that adding people is the trap answer.
So pushing harder is the same trap in a different coat. Crunch borrows speed now and pays it back with interest. Look at the real trade.
2 weeks saved, 5 weeks lost.
5 weeks. And that's before you count the 2 people who quit.
So what's the actual healthy speed? Is there a name for the pace you want?
It's the rhythm a team can hold forever. The phrase is,
Sustainable pace. The word is sustainable pace.
it's a principle in its own right. A team holds a constant pace indefinitely. Not a sprint you recover from. A pace you never have to recover from. This poster rallied a whole workforce for 4 years, and the trick was never burning it out.
And there's a hidden cost, right? A tired team isn't just slower.
A tired team makes mistakes. The overtime that saves you a week ships the bug that costs you 3. Crunch doesn't just borrow time, it borrows quality, and quality is the most expensive thing to buy back.
So Erica, crunch is always the wrong answer?
No, and here the exam gets honest. A short, bounded push can be the right call. A fixed launch you genuinely can't move, work that divides, a team that's fresh. A crash with your eyes open is a real technique.
The trap isn't crunch. The trap is default crunch. The sprint that quietly becomes every quarter, aimed at a late project where it backfires. A scalpel, never a reflex. I can give you the principle cold. The exact percentage a late project slips, that's per study, and I won't invent one. Read me the actual sentence Brooks wrote.
Word for word, 1975. Adding manpower to a late software project makes it later. That's the whole law.
If you're half listening to this in the car, keep one line. When you're behind, replan before you restaff.
That's the move I promised you up top, the one that looks like surrender. Not bodies, not crunch. You replan, you level, or you cut scope on purpose, in the open, with the sponsor. It protects the team and the delivery, both. But burn them for one deadline, and you can lose your 2 best people for 6 months. 6 months. Against 2 weeks saved.
Before we drill, Erica, you've watched this land in the real world. What does burning the team actually cost in a number?
And before you answer, I printed her original staffing plan. 1 page. The word requirements is nowhere on it.
Right, so here's the number I held back. Picture a delivery lead, call her Costa, a 40-person program, 3 releases shipped on nights and weekends, every one on time. Then the week after the 3rd launch, 2 staff engineers walked out the door. Recruiting replacements, waiting 6 months for them to reach full speed, and the release that slipped while they ramped, that bill came to roughly $440,000. To save about 3 weeks.
Every release on time. Right up to the one that wasn't.
The slip alone cost more than the crunch ever saved. $220,000.
Same shape as the startup death spiral. Ship on heroics, lose the heroes, next release slips twice as far. It's Lewis's tomatoes at scale. Work the one gardener to death, lose the whole crop.
6 months of hiring to save 3 weeks. Only a spreadsheet could love that. And it backfires almost every time. Well, whenever the project is already late.
And there's a decision filter step under all of it. Protect people first. Not as a nicety. As the cheapest risk control you have. The team is the one resource you can't replan around once it walks out the door.
And here's why nobody stops it. The crunch shows up on the status report as green. On time, on time, on time. The bill shows up 2 quarters later, in a different budget, with no line item that says burnout. so it never gets connected back to the crunch that caused it.
Right, so, 2 scenarios, exam style. Same order every time.
Scenario 1. A key developer is booked at 130% for the next month. The sponsor won't move the deadline. 4 ways to answer, which is the PMI move.
A. Authorize overtime and protect the date. B. Pull in a second developer to share the load.
C. Escalate to the sponsor today and flag it at risk. D. Smooth the work within the float first, level if it still overflows, then bring the sponsor real options.
Steelman each. Overtime protects the date, but it's the last lever, and a tired specialist is where the defects come from. A second developer sounds like capacity, but Brooks. And a month is barely ramp-up time. Escalating first is transparent, but you never walk into the sponsor empty-handed. The answer is D. Assess, optimize, then trade-offs.
Why that order, though? Why not just replan straight away?
Because each lever costs more than the one before it. Smoothing costs you nothing, you already own the float. Leveling costs you calendar. Replanning costs you a hard conversation with the sponsor. Overtime costs you the team. You spend the cheap ones first and only reach for the expensive ones when you have to.
The decision filter step is assess before you act. Optimize the resource before you spend the deadline or the sponsor's patience. Scenario 2. Project is 3 weeks late. A manager offers you 4 extra contractors, free, and the obvious move is to
Take them, obviously. Free people.
Brooks. Adding people to a late project makes it later. 4 contractors who need onboarding cost you more than the 3 weeks this month.
Yeah, withdrawn. Onboarding eats it.
But catch the nuance the exam loves, Liam. Those contractors aren't useless. They're wrong for this deadline. Put them on the next phase, or on divisible work off the critical path, and they earn their keep.
Which is the real answer. Is adding people ever right? Yes. Yes, early, on work that splits, with time to ramp. The rule is about late projects and work that won't divide. Assess where you are first, and that decides it. Assess first. Every time. That settles it.
2 things to keep. Size resources to the work, not to who's free. And when you're behind, replan before you restaff. If that clicked, a like and a subscribe genuinely help the channel. Here's the one to sit with. The next time your project falls behind, will you reach for more people, or for the plan? That's process task 4. Define, plan, manage, optimize, protect the team, still deliver. I'm Lewis. See you at the next desk.